Afternoon. It's a windy and overcast Saturday here in Cairns, and the top temperature is only 24 degrees, which is quite nippy for us. It may sound reasonable to other parts of Australia, but that is definitely on the cool side. Anyway, I'll give you the latest information on corona in Victoria, which does appear to be the real hotspot in Australia. If it wasn't for Victoria, we'd actually be looking pretty good overall, I would think. But again, the actual figures for the cases is dropping quite a bit. But there's still double figures for deaths, which is regrettable. More regrettable still, though, is the coverage in the Herald Sun, which seems to be rather belligerent towards anyone thinking of protesting against the stage 4 lockdowns. I'm very surprised at how much they're in lockstep with the government. It is Murdoch Press, after all, Herald Sun, so that's got me a little baffled. And if you see on down the side there, they've got a thing about how the people are praising the top cop for his tinfoil put downs of anyone demonstrating against the lockdown. I just find that really strange. Why is the Herald Sun so in lockstep with the Daniel Andrews government? Very, very weird. And it's not all media, I might add. If you look at the headlines here from the Daily Mail, which is an English publication, they are much more balanced. And they're showing a bit more perspective about the rights of the individual, the citizens of of Victoria. And whereas the Herald Sun seems to think, well, the Premier and the police are all encompassing when it comes to authority, and anyone who dares to actually deviate from their edicts is open to total ridicule. Very, very strange. Well, anyway, I'll get back to the situation in Victoria soon, but before that, there's actually an important update about the tragedy with the woman who was pregnant. She had a twin pregnancy, and one of the kids apparently had a condition with the placenta where apparently only one of the infants was getting a decent amount of nourishment from the placenta. But as we know from this story, this medical attention wasn't forthcoming in a timely manner because Anastasia Palaszczuk and Jeanette Young, the wicked witches of the north, as it were basically made it very difficult for this couple, who were actually based very close to the Queensland border, to get the medical attention required to give that second child a chance of living at birth. Instead, what occurred was they had to go all the way to Sydney, and you can see on the map here, it's quite a long journey. I mean, Australia is a big country, and New South Wales is big enough, and Queensland's even bigger still when it comes to the east coast coastline. But they were fairly close to Brisbane, which is the hospital where the kids should have gone to, but because it was in a different state, they would have then had to apply for an exemption, which obviously takes time and is a bureaucratic hurdle, and they basically opted to go all the way to Sydney. And as a consequence, well, the second child died. The second child still may have died even if they'd gone to Brisbane, but at least they would have had a fighting chance. And I am absolutely disgusted by Palaszczuk and her chief medical officer. More so Palaszczuk, because she is the Premier. She's the one who should be calling the shots, but she's a gutless wonder. She basically handballed the situation to the chief medical officer, and they're used as fall people for a lot of state premiers. So the state premiers in this country are really being shown up for not having much of a backbone. They basically like to handball their authority across to the chief medical officer, who can take the heat because they haven't got the balls to actually make the decision. And I think it's a pretty poor situation overall. This is another thing I'd like to mention. Jeanette Young, the Chief Medical Officer in Queensland, said that everybody who'd applied for an exemption was able to get one. Well, actually, Jeanette, that is not true, because there was that Lismore couple. They had the young child that had to go to Brisbane, and they were separated from their parents because they reneged on giving the parents an exemption. So, I mean, I suppose technically you could say that the actual patient was given an exemption, but basically this newborn was isolated physically from the parents, who can only see them via a TV camera. I mean, you know, Jeanette Young, fess up. Basically, it's a disaster what you and the Premier have come up with. And here we are back with the Herald Sun again, which is definitely seems to be a paper running an agenda here to basically bolster the Andrews government. And it's a weird agenda, because normally you would think that the Murdoch press would actually veer to the right rather than the left, but they seem to be going extreme authoritarian left here. And what they're saying is that chaos is expected as anti-lockdown buffheads protest. Now, one of Melbourne's top cops will be out in force this weekend in Dandenong. That's what this top cop is saying. You know, this really does seem to be pro-government propaganda from The Age. This is the first time I've actually used The Age as a source of information. Personally, I think it's a total rag. The Assistant Commissioner, Luke Cornelius, will not tolerate what he refers to as batshit crazy anti-corona theorists. He's also warned people their feet will not touch the ground before they're arrested. These are very inflammatory words used by this assistant police commissioner. It appears to me he's almost goading the protesters to have a go at the cops. I don't quite understand the psychology of this. Either that, or he's just a schoolyard bully who just enjoys basically putting down people. He does appear to be trying to niggle people, and that seems to be totally counterproductive to his role, which should be trying to keep the peace and keep things calm. But he seems to be going out of his way to incite people. Now, I'm the only person who's making this observation. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm totally misinterpreting this. But to me, this seems incredibly irresponsible. I'd like to know what other people who are watching this channel think, because that's how I interpret it. And maybe I'm overreacting. And it even gets better. As I read on down through this article, we discover that these burly cops have gone out and arrested a 76-year-old man that they accuse of organising a protest against the lockdown, and they're going to. He's out on bail apparently, but they've given him a huge fine. I think it was $20,000. It's in the article anyway. It just seems a total overreaction. This really is turning into a police state, Victoria, and I'm personally worried. And I'm also worried that the press seems to be complicit in this, especially the Herald Sun. They seem to be the cheer squad, and of course they raided this 76-year-old's house for computers and other electronic devices, including mobile phones, because right now, given the emergency regime, cops can wander into any private citizen's home. They don't need an excuse. They just have to suspect that they're contravening the coronavirus shutdown. I mean, this is really scary stuff, and I cannot believe that we have journalists in this country that are complicit with this. It is really disgusting and really worrying. Okay, well, enough of the hurly-burly of politics in Victoria. It's enough to make your head spin, seriously. Now I'm actually going to change pace and talk about Cairns, and specifically an article from Tropic Now, who I haven't actually resourced for any information for some time. 17 reasons to be positive about Cairns. In my opinion, this particular list, which I'm showing you on screen, is a little padded out with some fairly trivial positives that they're putting. I mean, I think it's good to be positive, and I want to be positive about Cairns, but really, when it comes down to it, I think there's only a handful of really important initiatives in that 17 list. And manufacturing base would be good, but again, what they're not including, if you're going to have a manufacturing base, well, how about we have a new power station for northern Queensland if you're serious about a manufacturing base? If you want a manufacturing precinct, you're going to need power, cheap power, to make it viable, and also probably a good deal with the labour force as well to keep the wages down, because one of the problems in Australia is that the cost of setting up a business, especially manufacturing, is horrendous when it comes to the wages. The Australian workers are paid a hell of a lot more than many other workers in the world, even in the US. So, yeah, the US is more competitive than we are in this area. So that says something. The other thing that's not in this 17 list is actually dams. Although indirectly maybe there is. They did say about electoral promises, and to my knowledge, the Liberal Party has actually promised to build dams in Queensland if they get elected. And I think at the moment, the way Anastasia Palaszczuk's been acting, I think there's a fair chance that could occur. As a matter of fact, I've got a clip here from Sky News. It's Bronwyn Bishop, who's really actually doing a fine job of actually articulating a few issues that I'm unhappy with. I'll just show this short clip, and I think she's making some very good points.
Gary, this finishes Palaszczuk for me forever. I don't know about you girls, but I just think it is absolutely disgusting. And I just wonder if she will have the death of that unborn baby on her conscience for the rest of her life. But I suspect not, because socialists aren't very good at that sort of stuff. But to have heard, and as we all heard those words, New South Wales has got some hospitals, Queensland hospitals are for Queenslanders, goes against the grain of everything that this country is about.
Hear, hear.
I want the Australian people need to say, with regard to Palaszczuk and what has happened with that poor mother, those 16 hours of hell. They have to we can't cop it. They have to make their voice heard. Let us know. Let the government know. Let that vote happen in Queensland to see her defeated, because she has gone way beyond the pale.
As I say, I think Bronwyn Bishop is doing a much better job as an advocate than she did as an actual minister. I think she's actually improving. And so, same as with Mark Latham. I think Mark Latham has grown as a politician since he's actually exited Canberra. Because when I put out the plea to basically subscribe, people have actually responded to my pleas. It's amazing. People are actually listening to me. I'm not used to this. But no, I'm very, very grateful for all the support I've got from people. And currently, I am actually up to 495 subscribers. So well done, everybody. I'm really happy with the people who have come and supported my site. At the peak of that mountain, we're getting very close. We may have to get some oxygen. We're getting that high up near the peak. But I think we can handle that. We can put up with that. Well, that'll be wearing a mask too, so that'll make Daniel Andrews very happy. It is gratifying to see so many people actually visiting my channel, and as I say, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down. Please comment. Feel free to comment. You don't have to agree with me. It's just my opinion here. You may think I'm talking utter BS, and that's fine. If we can have a civil conversation, then I've achieved my goal. So thank you once again, and I'll be back tomorrow.